Hello, Jordan.
What's up, Michael?
I've been eating a lot more fruit recently.
Yeah, you've been on a big fruit kick.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of fruit?
We did this like 4 weeks ago.
Did we?
Yeah, we listed all the fruits, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Apples, pears, bananas have been...
Wait, did we do this on a recorded call, or was that just you and I talking?
I don't remember, but we don't need to go
I think it was just
deep.
you and I talking.
I think it was on the pod. I really do.
Oh, okay. Well, right now you're having a nanner.
I'm having a banana for the video pods, a little carb up. Shifting from a little more processed to a little less feels good.
You're preaching.
You know?
You are preaching.
How are you?
I'm good. You know, I'm an E, so building up momentum as we go through the last podcast now into this one.
Yeah, I'm
exhausted.
So
I'm tired. You're losing steam, which is why you had to get that carb.
yeah, had to carb up for the steam.
But you still got the pre-workout in you and the post-workout high.
Half-life of caffeine's 5 to 7 hours, bro. I'm still in a wonderful spot.
Why did they say half-life? Like, why not just say, like, it lasts this long?
It's a scientific term, if I remember correctly, where it doesn't last that long. It means if you ingest 200 milligrams of caffeine at noon, then 5 to 7 hours later, if 5 to 7 hours is the half-life, 5 to 7 hours later, half of the caffeine is out of your system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know that you can say that how long it's in you, because if that's half,
then the other half would be gone in the full life.
I don't know if the other half is gone in 10 to 14 hours or if half of the half is gone in 10 to 14 hours.
Oh, what? Why do they call it half-life? I want to see this. Half-life is the time that it takes for half the original value of some amount of radioactive element to decay. This implies that one half-life is the time that it takes for the activity of the source to fall to half its original value. Right? It's what you just said. But, all right. I'll look more into this. Yeah, I just don't really get it.
You're wondering why the term isn't like it's all out of your system.
Yeah.
Well, because... So if it's just double it, then yes, I agree. It doesn't make sense. 10 to 14 hours is the time it takes to be out of your system. But if it means that then it takes another 5 to 7 hours to go down to 25%, and another 5 to 7 hours to go down to 12.5%, and another 5 to 7 hours to go to 0.0625%.
Oh, yeah. That would make sense.
Then it's this curve, right? So it doesn't actually hit zero. But that can't be right, because that would mean if you...
It never gets down to zero.
It's a limit problem in calculus. See, last time we were talking about hitting your third grade audience, we're hitting advanced. This is AP Calc with Sciat Fitness and OTR here at the How to Become a Personal Trainer podcast. What should we dive into?
Dude, you tell me. What do you want to dive into today?
I can't prove this,
but
I'm just going to make a bold statement that I don't really agree with, but I kind of do. Zone 2 cardio is suboptimal for fat loss.
What is optimal for fat loss then?
Let me just fully kind of state my thought process here. Zone 1. Well, what's really optimal is dialing in your nutrition.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And then on the calorie expenditure side, getting more steps in my personal experience and my experience with clients, getting more steps in, which is zone 1 cardio, not to be confused with zone 2 cardio, leads to an increasing calorie expenditure, which is good for fat loss, that does not come with the simultaneous increase in hunger. Okay? I have found that zone 2 plus, so zone 2, 3, 4, 5, like all the way up, in cardio intensity, unbelievable for health, right? Zone 2 is especially heart health. Really good for performance in various sports and activities. Makes me feel better when I do it. Makes it harder to adhere to nutrition. And I think there are both physiological and psychological reasons why. And I'm thinking of this because a couple clients, one or two historic current that have gone through things like this where the increase in zone 2 cardio for health benefits has led to more difficulty adhering to nutrition. Meaning, let's say you burn 250 calories, just to throw a number out there, in like a 45 to 60 minute zone 2 cardio session. That leads to overeating by more than 250 calories in that day on average. And whether that is because there's the rationalization of, and it's probably more that, but whether it's the rationalization of, I did more today, therefore I get to eat more, which I think is probably the bigger factor, versus actual increase in physiological hunger or need for increased calories, which I think is part of it. But zone 2 is suboptimal for fat loss.
I'd be interested to hear your experience with this, because I've had many clients who say high intensity cardio blunts their hunger. And I've also had many clients say high intensity cardio increases their hunger. I've had many clients say low intensity cardio blunts their hunger, and others say low intensity cardio increases their hunger. So I've noticed throughout clients, it's very dependent on the individual, like which type of cardio increases their subjective hunger.
Blunts it immediately after, or blunts it in totality?
Both. Like, okay. Whether it's over like a 60-minute period or like a 12-hour period, the rest of the day.
Interesting. Okay.
I haven't seen one definitive, like I've noticed different things with different clients. The thing that you hit on that I completely agree with is the psychological aspect of it, which is like, I've done more, so now I deserve to eat more, or I can eat more, whatever it is. That I've noticed is a bigger issue when someone's not tracking their calories. When they're not actually tracking, and it's like, well, okay, well, I deserve to eat more. It's like, no, if you're tracking, here's your numbers. This is what you fucking eat, period, end of story. Whereas if you're not tracking, you're just like, oh, well, the treadmill said I burned 1,000 calories, so I can eat whatever I want. And that's when people get in really issues with that. For me, high intensity cardio makes me ravenously hungry. Like when I go to zone 4, zone 5, it's blunted for about 30 minutes, like immediately after. And then following that 30 minutes, I'm starving. Whereas zone 2, dude, sometimes I'll do zone 2 and like, I'm not hungry at all for the next 4 to 6 hours. So zone 2 definitely blunts it. I would also argue that for the people who zone 2 is not increasing hunger, because you're going at a slightly higher intensity, but not so much that it's putting systemic stress on your body, you will inherently burn more calories than zone 1, which, assuming you're tracking your calories and macros and you're still hitting them, it will actually lead to a faster rate of fat loss. Of course, marginally, like not a big deal. But like, I do think like the amount of hunger that you're feeling, I think just depends on how the individual is affected by that type of cardio.
Yeah. If you're eating 1,800 and doing 5 hours of zone 1 a week, or you're eating 1,800 and doing 5 hours of zone 2 a week, you're going to see more progress doing the zone 2. Right. Because you're burning more calories because it's more intense cardio. Absolutely correct. That's interesting that you have seen people who have hunger in totality blunted by higher intensity levels of cardio, because I haven't seen that.
Oh, you haven't at all?
Immediately after, yes.
Yeah,
but not
like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours after.
No.
Interesting.
But, maybe that could have been off my radar and I wasn't even thinking to ask that type of question. I don't know. But it's, just interesting. It takes me back to Burkhan's like, just lift and just track, and you don't need cardio for aesthetics type of, I don't even know if that was coined. It was in that era, right? And is, in my experience and many others, super effective. But you're right that it varies from client to client.
Yeah.
But adding steps is never like, You have someone taking 2,000 steps a day and you gas them up to 6,000 to 8,000, all else equal, like progress.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Fat loss progress. And, we've seen the meta-analysis of more steps, longer life, higher quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think, we were talking about ice baths in the last episode, and if people are looking for something to do, I would rather people, like, if you're going to listen, if you want to do ice baths, cool, go for it. That's fine. But if you're really looking for ways to have a time effective way to have the most impact on your health, if it's between ice bath and walking, it's a no brainer for me that walking, like sitting in an ice bath, is not nearly as good for health or fat loss or anything as movement, like walking. Like, yeah.
100%. And that's not, I can't prove this, but that's, I could
Fact.
prove this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about like take an ice bath because it increases fat loss. I don't even think we need to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't take ice baths to increase metabolic rate and lose body fat. It's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
I heard an interesting quote the other day.
What's the quote?
Eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Eat the meat, spit out the bones. All right. What's that in reference to?
So Zuby was talking about...
I love Zuby.
He was talking about basically being able to interact with people you disagree with and people who have...
Was that on Mind Pump? Is that what you're listening to?
I think it was on Mind Pump.
Yeah.
And having conversations with people who, it might not have been, but having conversations with people who you disagree with, and still getting along and still being able to take something of value from them, which I think is getting lost in a more polarized society. But just because I disagree with, this person said X, Y, and Z thing, it's like, yeah, I don't agree with any of those three things. And I actually don't even think those three things are good ideas. But this person also said A, B, C, D, E, F that I think are really good ideas, really helpful, true, and I think that people would benefit from. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. Like, people aren't all good and all bad. No two people on the planet agree on everything. And so we need to be more okay with differentiating between the ideas someone has and the person, and then being okay with, like, using some of the good ideas and then discarding the ones that you don't agree with.
100%. Yeah. I think especially now, and obviously this can really go into a political discussion, but any aspect where now more than ever, we find ourselves in echo chambers around people who agree with us and like on these different, like, big, very important topics. And oftentimes when we find ourselves in these echo chambers, they will make it seem as though someone who disagrees with this is an evil person. That's how they frame it. If someone disagrees with this, then the other person, then they're evil. And that's such a dangerous way to go about life, to believe that just because someone has a different belief about this individual topic means that they're evil. And then what they try and do is, because they say that they're evil, it's like, well, then we shouldn't allow them to state their opinion, or we shouldn't allow their opinion to be heard by other people because it's an evil, dangerous opinion. And that's when we want to run into so many problems. And that's what I see happening right now, especially in the US, where it's like, this side is evil, no, that side is evil. It's like, what's that Stolgen, like the line dividing good and evil runs through the heart of every human being, right? It's like, this is one, I think my best piece of writing ever. It's sort of devolving into a different conversation, but I'll go with it. I think my best piece of writing and research ever was one of my Holocaust classes in university. I did an entire research paper. I've never researched harder than I did for this paper. I did an entire paper all about the SS soldiers in the Nazi organization, and they were like some of the worst soldiers did a ton of the killings, mass executions, mass exterminations, all of that. And it was pretty crazy because a lot of the information that I had to get for this research paper was not available online. Like I had to go, the old school way. I had to go to the library and check out the books. And a lot of what I was doing was I was reading journals of SS soldiers. I was reading accounts from the Nuremberg trials. I was reading everyday accounts from the horse's mouth. And obviously this is a little bit different because it was evil. That was pure evil. That was true evil. But what's crazy about this true evil is these people who were committing the worst atrocities known to mankind also had wives at home and they had kids. And after their day at work of killing innocent people, they would go home and then they'd go on vacation and they would go to the grocery store and they'd go take their wife out to dinner. And it's just like they were living normal lives. But the crazy thing is this, they thought, not all of them, actually a lot of them didn't believe this, but a fair amount of them were brainwashed into believing that what they were doing was good and it was right. Ironically, a lot of them knew that it was wrong and they had real issues as a result of it. And there was rebellions. Anyway, I guess that sort of is a point going against what I'm saying, but
no, because if you're reading the biography of some Nazi general and within that biography, you're taking their ideas and what they did and consuming that piece of information and taking what you want from it.
Yeah. I just think when you so adamantly believe that your way is the only potential right way and anything else is evil, you're building the foundation to actually commit evil against the people who disagree. When you put yourself so high up and allow yourself to believe that anyone who disagrees with your belief around this topic, whatever that topic is, if you believe that they're evil and you think they should be silenced and no one should be able to hear their opinion, you are now building the foundation that will allow you to commit evil against that person and justify it without even realizing it under the idea of, well, I'm doing good, but in reality, it's actually evil. It's a great quote. Eat the meat, spit out the bones.
You ever eat Jersey Mike's?
I have one right around the corner from me. I've never had a Jersey Mike's sub.
Do yourself a favor. Walk in there this afternoon, say, hey, I'd like the regular on the Parmesan bread, Mike's Chicken Philly, please. It is unbelievable. It's a chicken.
When was the last time you had it?
Very recent.
Today?
No, but within last week.
Okay.
Some insane. The macros are unbelievable, and
really,
the macros are much. If you ate one and then you looked up the macros after, you'd be like, wow. And if you want a little bit lower fat, do the white bread instead of the Parmesan bread, but for an extra 3 fats, the taste is worth it. It's a chicken cheesesteak with a solid amount of peppers and onions on it. And it's 50 protein, 75 carb, and in the 20 to 24 fat range. And it is delicious.
Wow. All right. Number 16, Mike's Chicken Philly Sub, white bread regular, 45 protein, 22 fat, 70 carb.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's...
Is it filling?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's good.
All right. Maybe I'll go. I'll go check that out.
Yeah. Avi, Avi, about a year ago, I was out in New Jersey and he was taking me I was coaching Gary and he was like, want to go to Jersey Mike's? Or I was like, can we stop somewhere? Should we hit Subway? He's like, Subway? He's like, let's go to Jersey Mike's. I was like, I've never been there. Ever since. Just unreal.
Do you eat this regularly?
I've been a once a week Jersey Mike's guy going here for a little bit. Dude, it's
wow,
also $8. I mean, I know you're big time, but
I'm trying to save money, Michael. I don't eat out very often.
It's
very frugal.
You know what? I wasn't expecting to go here with this, but for those macros for $8 and it's just ready to go, it like insane.
No brainer.
No brainer. And if you order pickup on an app like Seamless or DoorDash, there's no fee to order pickup and it's ready when you get there. So you don't have to stand in line and like order and
we should ask if Jersey Mike's will sponsor us at this point. This is not a paid ad, by the way. This is real.
Yeah, we don't.
Mike is just going off on how great Jersey Mike's is.
I haven't done an advertisement in my career, but if Jersey Mike's wants to sponsor the pod, we actually still probably wouldn't do it because if they were sponsoring and paying us, then I wouldn't want to talk about it. It's just
it's true.
Where's it going to go? Oh, prices are insane.
Oh my God, it's nuts.
But not eating out and eating at home and cooking was always a way to save money because if you buy ingredients and make a meal, like the total cost of that meal is in theory so much less than if you were to go out to eat. But some of the meals that we've been having here and the price of the ingredients at the grocery store add up close to what this type of meal would cost in a restaurant.
Really?
In like a middle of the road grocery store, not like a Whole Foods or something along normal grocery store, which is insane, which I don't even get because then it's like how are restaurants making money? And
makes no sense.
They're not buying retail with their ingredients and they probably have some economies of scale because they're buying in higher quantities. But still, it's like if I'm barely saving any money eating at home versus eating out, I never thought I'd see the day. And it's not just eggs. Like people, eggs have been a big thing
it's
recently.
Everything. Yeah. It's actually pretty crazy. And this is not getting political. This is
twice in 23 minutes. Jordan's not gotten political.
I'm not getting political, but I do follow. I think people on both sides lie and they gaslight and they.
Most people on both sides, I would say.
Yeah. And especially the politicians at the highest level.
Not like city council type stuff, but you're talking Senate, House, like
president.
Yeah.
So I follow Joe Biden on Instagram. I follow people on both sides. I'm not getting political. I'm just going to say.
I follow Joe Biden on Instagram. Let me tell you something about Joe Biden.
Listen.
I'm listening. You're
I've
good.
seen some crazy things that he's posting on it. I pay attention to the comment section more than anything. I'm very interested in the comment section of posts, especially by big political figures. And he keeps posting, and obviously it's not Biden, like he's not posting on his Instagram like his team is, but they write it as though he's posting it. I would love to see Biden use Instagram. But anyway, he's posting about how like grocery prices are lower than ever and gas prices are lower than ever. And I go in the comments and people are like, Joe, and like people who support him are like, Joe, I love you, but like, this is not the case at all. People these are people who support him, who like people who voted for him. Great. Who are like, Joe, my grocery prices are higher than ever. My gas prices are higher than ever. I don't know what you're saying or where you're getting this data. But like, it's very interesting to me that like I've noticed it as well. Like gas prices, crazy, grocery prices, crazy. But it's just weird to see like that coming out. I don't know. Very odd. Like, I don't know. Just weird.
There's an old saying that anyone who wants to be king would be a bad king. And that the person who should be king is the person who doesn't want it. And this is best exemplified in a top 3 greatest movie of all time, Gladiator. When Marcus Aurelius is, in his final years and months and tells Maximus that he wants him to take over. And Maximus has been fighting. He's a general. He's been fighting with his army for years. And all he wants to do is go home to see his wife and his son. Maximus would be the proper person to put in control and then eventually give the power of Rome back to the Senate, which is what he ends up doing, like through sorry, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen the movie from 1999, but unreal. He is like that is the fiction that hits closest to the truth of the story, of the concept that the best person for the job in that position of power is the person who doesn't want power. And right, left, center, I don't care. Most of we used to all distrust politicians in the 90s. Everyone distrusted the politicians, which I think is the right mindset. And we're going to leave the politics here. But I don't know why President Biden is saying those things on Instagram or whichever staffer, whichever Gen Z staffer. I don't know
where all this trust in the government came from. Any side, it's so crazy.
There's so much.
You guys need to read some fucking history books.
I don't think people,
or even look at what's going on currently.
Do people actually trust? I think they just.
Oh yeah.
I think they just hate the other side so blindly that then they're wrapped up in this us versus them, and they're not even thinking about whether they trust the person on their side.
Yeah. Well, they've been told the other side is so evil. Going back to what we were talking about, that their side must just be pure good. It's you think your side is good? Okay, good luck.
Well, and then when you see arguments, it's like a person on the right brings up a point, and then the person on the left ignores that point but brings up something like, oh, but your side did this, and the person on the right doesn't address this. They're like, yeah, but your side did this. It's just talking over each other and past each other. It's ridiculous. Bring back the 90s. We don't,
Dude, the 90s were the best. Blink-182, Yellow Card. Who else?
I love that you go straight into bands. That's
just what I think about,
really?
The 90s music. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm taking my wife to Blink-182 this summer. They're doing a tour. I don't even like live music, but I'm very excited for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I read a good article on Substack about the 90s from someone who graduated high school in 1999, and all through his high school career, his teachers were telling the whole class how amazing this new millennium was going to be in the year 2000, and you guys are going to be adults going into the year 2000, and things are just going to be amazing. He was reflecting back on the 90s and childhood, and it was quite nostalgic.
Do you remember running with a CD player and trying to make it so the CD didn't skip as you're
absolutely. Do I remember?
I remember literally on a run, trying to hold it super soft.
Absolutely.
With my wraparound headphones. Oh God, those were so good.
The best. Yeah, I remember the first time I ever tried running with a CD player, and I had it in my pocket, and it was just banging into my leg, and it was skipping every 2 seconds, and then you had to carry it. Yeah. Just look, here's the biggest takeaway for me was we're going real off topic, whatever. This is a personal trainer podcast. The amount of time that we spent outside doing nothing with friends without fear, and you just left in the morning on a weekend day, or I was out for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, and I kind of knew where I was allowed to go and where I wasn't. And then you came home for dinner, and the things that you did and the games you played. I don't know. There's definitely an argument to be made that every generation judges the new one unfavorably and thinks that their time was the best. And I'm not an anti-tech person, but I do think that less video games and less iPad for 5 to 18-year-olds these days, and more fresh air, physical activity, and time socializing and interacting with other people and playing would be really good for those kids, those individuals, and many adults too.
100%. How
can I make $1 million per year without making content? Can you think of any business models where a solopreneur was successful in building $1 million a year business that did not involve that person making any content? Cheers.
I've never done that, so I don't know. I have no, everything I've done is based off of content. Mm-hmm. I know there are amazing, Alex Hormozy stands out as a guy who just has only recently started making content after years of dominating without it. Mm-hmm. So it also depends what you mean by content. Like, does running advertisements count as content? Because I think nowadays a good advertisement is content, right? In terms of like, if you are paying for an ad, like a Super Bowl commercial, that's an advertisement, but it's content is what it is. So I think it would be very difficult to build a highly successful, like multi-million-dollar business without any content, because any content is like, even paying for an ad, that's really the only other way that I could think. If you're not putting out free content that's educational, informative, entertaining, then there are two other options that I can think of off the top of my head. One is paid advertisements, and the other is referrals. And I think ideally you could use all three: free content, paid advertisements, and referrals to build the best business you possibly can, rather than using either one alone. Even email marketing, like, that's content. Emails are content. So I don't see how the really only way, if you want to avoid all content together, then it would all be from referrals. And you'd have to do a hell of a job, and it would probably have to be an in-person business in order to, like, you couldn't have an online business, because if it's an online business, you have to be making content somehow.
And even if your product or service was so good that you built it that big based on referrals alone, it would have been bigger had you been making content.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because they're both forms of reach. Making free content, paid advertising, way to get new eyeballs onto your product or service, and referrals, way to get more people interested in your product or service. So yeah, technically you could, if you had an incredible product or an incredible service that people really wanted to use, that they derived so much more value than what they were paying for, and then it's spread via word of mouth, which is going to be slower than it would spread if you were putting things on the internet for people to see, which is where so many people are spending so much time. What would be, follow-up, what would be the skill set? Like, you brought up Hormozy. I don't know that backstory a ton, other than seems to be very good at writing copy and a really good, even like in-person salesman. So I guess really good sales and really good product/service. What else
and
would
ads,
you
and run, really, and run, like,
that's right.
Big ads.
That's right. That's right.
A lot of ads. Yeah. And which is content.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
A good advertisement is just great content that you're paying for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, the only other way I could think about it would be like if you have a brick and mortar business that people drive by and there's high volume, and I don't know, maybe you like own a McDonald's franchise, right? Or whatever, like,
yeah,
or
I don't
something, but
I don't think franchisees are getting $1 million. Like, I saw the math on, was it Chick-fil-A, whatever, single restaurant owner, and they're not netting, the question asked $1 million a year. I don't think they're netting anywhere close to that.
Yeah. So I'm sure, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it'd be much easier for you if you did make content.
Well said.
All right, here's something. Someone asked, what changed in the fitness industry regarding sodium? Before, don't eat salt. Now, drink salt.
Great question.
It's a great question.
Do you know what, and I guess I can hypothesize what the reasons were that people were anti-sodium, and I'm guessing blood pressure, like too much sodium correlated with high blood pressure, risk of heart attack, etc., was part of what was at the base of that. Do you know what else was driving like an anti-sodium movement during its time?
That was the main reason. It was like, but a lot of it was based off of correlational data of people. It was like, people who eat very high salt also often have very high blood pressure. And if you eat a lot of salt, like, it can have a direct impact on your blood pressure immediately. So the recommendations were, especially if you have high blood pressure, you need to reduce salt. But what they weren't taking into account was that a lot of these people who had high blood pressure, they were also super overweight. They were also often smoking. They were not exercising. And they were eating so much salt, not because they were salting their foods, but because the vast majority of the food they were eating was highly processed food that also needed to have a lot of salt as a preservative or whatever it was. So like the salt, it came with a ton of extra salt, and their lifestyle factors in combination with that was a big issue. And then this is actually, I think you might have found me for my guest article on Eric Cressy's website in 2011 was about salt intake. That was, I wrote that. And I remember because I had always been taught that you needed to reduce sodium. And I started writing that article for Eric, like parroting what I had been taught in school and everything. And then I started doing research and I was like, I wrote like the first half of the article, and then I wanted to cite sources. So I started looking them up, and I was like, holy shit. I'm so glad that I'm actually researching this, because I almost gave Eric Cressy, my first ever like big guest article, a factually incorrect piece of content that I had learned in college about, like, you needed to, in my sports nutrition class, which is ironic because like sports nutrition, like they should be talking about the electrolytes, all that stuff. But I was told you should not be having a lot of sodium, when the reality is all of these other variables were massively confounding, not to mention it's easier to increase potassium, which will then have essentially the same effect of reducing sodium, but it's far easier. Like if you look at the research around very low sodium diets, they are so difficult for people to sustain. It's so for any number of reasons, not least of which it's just super bland and not enjoyable. But if you increase potassium, you get the exact same benefits of reducing sodium without actually having to reduce sodium. And that will improve your blood pressure. And also, if you're increasing potassium, odds are you're having more fruits and vegetables and less processed food. So you're going to be improving your body composition. You're going to be improving the quality of your foods, like all that stuff. So a lot of the initial hatred and fear mongering around sodium was based around people who weren't living healthy lifestyles anyways. Now I see a lot of people talking about sodium and how you need to be having it in your pre-workout, you need to be drinking it. And I do think it is going too far. I think I see people who are like, yeah, you need to be drinking a lot of salt and make sure you're hydrated. It's like, unless you're sweating a crazy fucking amount, like you're good. like most people, especially people who are overweight and have high blood pressure, like they should not really be adding salt to their shit. Like, let's focus on other things. But if you are sweating a lot from your workouts, you're a highly active individual, sure, by all means, like do that. But I do think it has swung to the extreme, which is very fitness industry-esque in terms of like, now we've got everybody adding fucking salt to their drinks. I'm like, all right, relax. Like, your blood pressure is 160 over 85. Like, I think you don't need to be adding salt to your pre-workout.
Yeah. You made a great point in there that I love, which is you sat down to write a long form article and spent a lot of time researching. And people think that you sit down and write to communicate what you know, but you sit down and write to learn about something. And that's what you did, and reached the conclusion, the proper conclusion, through that process. So good for you.
That was a key memory that I will always have. I remember I was so excited. Eric was like, yeah, you can write an article for my website. I was like, awesome. What do you want to write? And he was like, I think he was the one that suggested this. I don't fully remember, but either way, we came on that topic. All right, I'll do a guest article on this. And I'm writing it, and I'm sitting, because I was living with my mom at the time. And I was sitting at in her apartment in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and I'm sitting at the table and I'm writing it. And I remember being like, holy shit. And my mom was like, what? I was like, I almost just sent Eric a factually incorrect article. And I had a whole conversation with my mom about it. I was like, I am so glad that I actually did this research before I just wrote an article based off of the knowledge that I had accumulated in school, because shocker, university taught me the wrong shit. That was a key moment in my career where I was like, all right, I definitely have to research everything before I write a long form article about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, here's actually a great question. I love this. I might also answer this on my Instagram. Lizzie Feist.
Lizzie.
She asked, Lizzie Feist, she said, is it wrong of me to turn down male one-on-one clients? I really only want to train females. I love this question. What do you think?
If you love it, you can run with it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think, man, I was just about to get political. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to keep going with it. I think there's too much push for, Mike is just covering his face. He's like, God damn it. He's like, there's too much push for like, equality of outcome, all this stuff. It's like, you focus on who you want to focus on. Now, if you're like, I only want to work with white people, that's a fucking problem. Like that's not okay. But hey, I only want to work with women. Cool. I only want to work with men. Cool. I only want to work with basketball players. Cool. Fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all, because especially in a general circumstance, like men and women go through very different things, and generally they have very different needs. They have often have very different goals. Oftentimes it's they feel more or less comfortable speaking to someone of the opposite sex. So like if you feel more comfortable and that's what you want to focus on, great. I think that's amazing. And don't let anyone say, well, you should also work with men too. It's like, if you want to work with women, just only work with women.
Yeah. It's your business. Like, and there are differences between male and female that not only.
How dare you?
What's that?
How dare you?
How dare I? Yeah, if you're, we're not going down this rabbit hole. Let's use common sense here. Yes, you absolutely, if you're more comfortable and or just would prefer to work with one of the sexes rather than the other, you're a woman, so you feel more comfortable coaching women, or even like that doesn't need to be the reason. You're allowed. It's your business. Yeah. Work with who you want to and who you're better at working with. This is kind of like we could say this with anything. Like if you enjoy training high level athletes and someone who's 75 years old and overweight comes to you wanting to lose body fat and has, really struggles with their relationship with food and has binge eating issues, and that's not who I work with. That's okay. You don't have to work with everybody. Maybe this is a little more of a hot button question. Maybe it's not even. Like we might be overthinking it, but because it's male, female, but like you as the coach and as the CEO of your business get to pick the population who you want to work with. And, kindly, if a man applies for coaching and you're not taking men on, tell him that and say, by the way, I know a handful of good coaches. I'm happy to refer you to one who I think does work with you. Like, great.
Love that. Yeah.
Do you seemed to think that because she was asking the question that she felt like she would be doing something wrong if she didn't take on male clients?
Yeah, the way she phrased it, she said, she literally wrote, is it wrong of me to turn down male one-on-one clients? I would only like to train females.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it clearly there's some form of either self-imposed or maybe there are other people in her life who are like, why are you only taking on women? Like you should take on men if they want the help too. It's like, well, that's my choice of who I want to work with and like who I want to, like who I'm more passionate about helping. And I think if you are more passionate about helping women, then there should be zero guilt associated with that. There's nothing wrong whatsoever. And I mean, be the best trainer for women ever. Mm-hmm. Like learn as much about it and learn all the things that specifically affect women. Like learning all about the menstrual cycle, learning all about different hormonal changes, and learning about menopause, and like learning all of it. Like learn about everything. Learn about anatomy and physiology. Learn about the differences in bone structure. Look at the differences in injury rates in different parts. Like oftentimes women will have injuries, whether it's in their ACL or often lower back pain. Like look at things that are affecting women, and that. Well, you then will probably be undereducated on things pertaining to men. Cool. You've just established yourself as the leading person for training women. So great. That's the side of niching down that I'm totally fine with. where it's like, yeah, pick a general population, women. Great. It doesn't have to be women between the ages of 27 and 32 and a half who make six figures a year. It's just like, no, just women. I love that. I think it's a great idea.
I wonder, because I've seen some of this and I've talked to female coaches about this, but there's a type of man. There's nothing wrong with if you're a man signing up to coach with a woman, obviously. I shouldn't have to say there's nothing wrong with that. But I do know a type of man who signs on for coaching with a female coach because he wants to wife her.
Yeah.
Like, this will get me access to be able to communicate with her. So
Correct.
I would imagine some women might feel a degree of discomfort in that situation, which just further makes the point that no.
That's why so many of the dudes who sign up for OnlyFans are signing up for OnlyFans, because they're like, they think that if they're signing up to a woman's OnlyFans, then like they're going to hook up with her or whatever it is. It's like, nope.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
We should start a mentor.
Yeah,
we should start a mentorship. We should start a free mentorship for dudes who are subscribed to OnlyFans, and we're going to take
Improving
you
their
into
life.
this. Yeah. In fact, let's actually do it.
Let's do it.
It's free.
Cancel your OnlyFans. You got to cancel your OnlyFans accounts.
And then you join we'll think of a good name, but like a life improvement, like get you on the right path.
Yeah.
Get you in the gym, get you some routines, get you some structure in your life, get you some direction, because paying $20 a month to some chick to see her boobs is not the strategy for life.
No. Terrible idea.
And from love. This is coming from deep love from two dudes who have lived many, many years.
It's gonna help men and society as a whole.
How dare you help men and not help women?
How
Jordan,
dare you?
You're awful.
It's not. You shouldn't be subscribing to OnlyFans. It's like, it's not doing you any good. It's just not, or society.
Correct. Rapid fire to finish.
Okay, here's an interesting one. I don't know if you like this. As a woman, what upper body exercises to avoid so I don't grow my traps bigger?
Cool.
What do you think?
Exercises that recruit the upper traps.
So I have potentially an unpopular opinion with this one.
But you can't, what you sometimes do here is you change like, okay, let's hear your unpopular opinion.
Do you even know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, we had one before where
putting words in my mouth.
No, I don't know exactly what you're going to, but I think you're going to say like your upper traps aren't going to grow as much as you think they're going to grow.
No,
so you don't.
That's not what I was going to say at all.
Okay, all right.
I was going to say something that is going to be very unpopular.
Oh, all right, cool.
Lateral shoulder raises.
All right. Yeah, I didn't see this coming. Nice.
Lateral shoulder raises.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of trap involvement.
Yeah.
And even if you're doing it properly, there's a lot of trap involvement. Just in order to upwardly rotate the scapula, I think lateral shoulder raises are one of the best exercises for growing traps. And especially if you're really pushing the weight on it, you're going to use trap. Like it's impossible not to. But this is difficult because also common trend for women is they want more defined shoulders. So, generally speaking, I would limit the amount of lateral shoulder raise that you're doing and really focus on, instead of necessarily progressively overloading with heavier weight, which is difficult enough on a lateral shoulder raise, but using technique, really pushing your arms out so not allowing your traps to get as involved, and really reaching out with your arms as you come up and focusing on a slow eccentric with lighter weight, slow eccentric. So to get as much shoulder as you can with as little trap as possible. But if you're really trying to push those lateral shoulder raises, like you are getting a lot of trap, which like,
I like it.
It hits your traps. Like, and listen, a lot of people say women can't get bulky. No, of course women can get bulky. Like if you it doesn't look at some of these outrageously fit CrossFit women. It's like, yeah, they can. And like They can, for sure. But also, they're also training way harder than most people in the gym are. So it makes sense. But to say women can't get bulky, like that's stupid.
Just like men, there's a genetic component. There are hyper responders.
Yeah.
There are people who add muscle way easier and people who don't add muscle nearly as easy. I would cross that bridge when you come to it, right? I wouldn't go into it saying I'm not going to do any exercises that affect the upper traps, because then you're cutting some pretty good stuff, right? Like to say I'm never going to deadlift because there's, a loaded isometric on the upper trap. Like, I don't know if that, not, I don't know. That's not necessary. But yeah, shrugs, farmer's carries, rack pulls, like don't do an excess of volume for the upper traps, lateral raises, or do them with more dialed techniques.
Do you have any unpopular opinions in terms of exercises to avoid or to be aware of?
All the ones I just did.
Oh, cool. Got it.
I mean, holding super heavy weights or shrugging.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? You know what is another one?
Tell me.
Cleans.
Yeah.
Cleans will build outrageous traps. Like if you're doing barbell cleans and you don't want big traps, stop doing barbell cleans.
Yeah. Yep.
Kettlebell cleans, on the other hand, not as trap focused at all. Kettlebell cleans, you do still use some, but based on how the arm, the motion of the arm works, it's actually a lot less trap. It's a lot less shrug and a lot more momentum with the hip, and like the way that the arm comes up, it's less trap. So
comes more from hip extension than from trap.
From the shrugging part of it. Yeah. So the barbell clean, has a massive shrug component to it. Kettlebell, because it's more of a pendulum, it's less shrugging. Whereas the barbell, you want it to come straight up oftentimes, and you have to shrug in order to make that happen. So that's where I think a lot of the CrossFit women get big traps, is from they do so many cleans, so many snatches.
Good one. Junior high school, we went hard on cleans, and they.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I love watching the football players, like high school football players, like cleaning 315. I'm like, you guys are just animals. It's unbelievable.
Insane.
I can't believe you thought I was going to go the other way with that. I can't believe you're like, oh, well, you always say, no, it's okay. If you if you want big traps, go for it. But she specifically didn't want big traps.
I'm with you. The way you said it, I did misinterpret that. That one was on me.
That was an unfair judgment, Michael.
Hey, if you're still listening right now, we would very, very, very much appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. We don't run ads. There's no Jersey Mike's giving us money to promote stuff. You're not going to, this is just free listening, free enjoyment. And so if you want to find a way to pay us back just a little bit, at Personal Trainer Podcast on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. We hope you have the best day, best week, weekly uploads. Anything else, Jordan?
I'm about to go to Chick-fil-A, get some grilled nugs.
High protein, low fat, low carb.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week. We will talk to you next week for our weekly upload.